before we get started, a big thank you as always to EA for sponsoring today's video. Ahoy me gamers, it's Ashton here. I hope you're all having a
beautiful day. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah, didn't expect that one, did ya? Today I'm bringing you the long-awaited first tier list for Season 8 of Apex Legends. Of course, I'm bringing you the weapons tier list first, and after that will be the Legends tier list in a future video. As is always the case with an opinion-based video, I have to run a quick warning past you before we get into today's video.
Warning. Warning. The following video contains opinions, some of which you may not agree with. That is not an excuse to be a baby. Don't be a baby. Accept that some opinions are different to yours.
Alright, so with that out of the way, let's crack on with today's video. Oh, and do make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it, and it helps the channel grow, so cheers, thank you. So guys, you know the drill by now. The first tier we talk about is the F tier, the worst weapons in the game. I'm not going to stick around on this one for too long because you guys know what's coming. Obviously, I'm talking about the P2020 and the Mozambique without hammer points. Obviously, with hammer points, they're very different, so those with hammer points are higher up on the list, and we'll talk about them later, but, you know, I don't need to stick around on these weapons for too long. Everyone knows these guns are complete trash, and you should never run them if you have the choice of literally any other gun, or of course if you have hammer points, as I said. But, you know, some people have been defending the Mozambique recently because we've been spawning in with them, and they've been saying stuff like,
"The Mozambique kinda slaps, it's kinda good, kinda underrated."
And to those people, obviously, I say it's fine if you want to think that, but, you know, good luck when you roll up to me when I'm fully kitted and you're still running around with a beak in your back pocket. Moving out of F tier into D tier, skipping E tier because it's quite clearly cursed. We have the L-Star and the Longbow without Skull Piercer. You know, again, L-Star I really don't have to talk about too much. I don't have to show you guys this gun. It's whack, no one runs it. There's a reason you never see anyone running this gun mid to late game. It's because it's trash. And you know, seeing the Longbow down here in D tier is actually interesting because I placed it higher last season in Season 7, and obviously it's had no changes, but this is just proof that even my opinions can change in the space of a season, and I saw a lot of feedback from you guys in the last tier list saying the Sentinel is way better than the Longbow. I've given it some more time, and honestly I would tend to agree in the fact that it's a sniper. Probably the Longbow does deal more consistent damage over time, but for using a sniper, you know, if you're gonna be lining up those shots and expecting to hit those shots and you back yourself, I'd have to say maybe the Longbow is the worst choice. It's really close, but for me, this season I've put it in D tier, and I don't feel too bad about it, to be honest. Up into C tier now, and we have a lot more weapons to talk about in this tier. We've got the Alternator, the Devotion without turbo, the Havoc without turbo, the Sentinel, the Skull Piercer bow, and the RE45. Now, hot take for you really quick. I'm not a big fan of the Alternator this season. Despite what a lot of people are saying, for me, I don't feel the effect of the buff that much. In fact, personally, I prefer the RE45, but I know a lot of people probably won't agree with that, and I'm trying to be objective here. The RE45 isn't quite as good at mid-range as the Alternator, so that takes away from it a little bit. But for me, the RE45 is really decent. I think it slaps. As you can see in the gameplay I got here, I was absolutely mowing people down with it, and just couldn't achieve the same thing with the Alternator, but the stats say that the Alternator is a decent weapon now. I'm pretty indifferent in between which one I prefer. They both have their, you know, pros and cons, but for me personally, I wouldn't pick up either of them if I had the choice of a better gun, in my opinion. So, you know, they're in C tier, kind of middle of the pack. Decent enough, but not something I'd outrightly go for. The Sentinel's in here because it's a ton of fun to use, especially in pubs. Probably not a gun I'd pick up in Ranked because obviously it's high risk, high reward. You've got to have amazing accuracy to make it really work as effectively as it can. Skull Piercer Longbow is also in this tier because obviously it's better than the Longbow without Skull Piercer, and I think it's better enough that it deserves to be a tier above, but if I have the choice of any sniper, I'm probably still not going to go with the Longbow. And lastly, we've got the Havoc and the Devotion in here without turbocharger. Obviously, they spin up really, really slow. They have a decent damage output, which is why they deserve to be up in the C tier, but for me, you know, without turbocharger, I'm not really looking to run these guns. You know, the Havoc, especially for an assault rifle, really inaccurate. Definitely without turbocharger, I don't want to go near it. Up from the C tier into the B tier, we've got the Hammer Point Mozambique and P2020, the Wingman without any hop-ups, the Charge Rifle, the Eva 8, and the 30-30 Repeater. Whenever I mention the Wingman in one of these tier lists, I always feel like I have to be super defensive about why it is where it is, and for me, B tier is a good tier. You know, the weapons in this tier are definitely usable, and some of the better guns in the game. And the Wingman is down in B tier because for me, it's so much better with hop-ups. Quick Draw and Skull Piercer make the Wingman 10 times more usable, and for me, that's why those variants of the gun are higher up. But for me, without hop-ups, it's no better than a B tier. It's definitely useful, and you can use it at decent ranges, close range, medium range, even long range on PC especially, but for me, it's no better than B tier without hop-ups. That's just my opinion though. Hammer points have been in the game since Season 2 now, so hopefully you all know just how good the Hammer Points Mozambique and P2020 are. They're super strong against flesh enemies and honestly are a really fun and enjoyable weapon to use as a sidearm. You can't really use them as a primary, which keeps them down in the B tier, but definitely super strong to pull out once you've cracked someone's shield, and I'll always rate them really highly. I think they're decent. The Charge Rifle is super easy to use and deals consistent high amounts of damage across long range. You know, that's all you can want from a sniper rifle, and for me it's definitely up there with one of the best. The recent change to the fire rate of the Eva 8 has made it feel a lot stronger. I definitely probably wouldn't run this over the other shotgun, the Mastiff, but for me, it's definitely a little bit better now than it was last season, especially when you manage to get a purple bolt on it. That being said, I do miss the double tap hop up on the Eva 8, I think that thing was amazing. And last but not least, we obviously have the new gun to Season 8, the 30-30 Repeater. For me, this is a really decent gun. It's solid if you use it the way it's meant to be used. It's good for those long to medium ranges, and you can really grind out some damage with this gun.
Oh, you got bloody smashed, mate!
In the second highest tier, which is the A tier, we have the Skull Piercer Wingman and the Quick Draw Wingman, the R99, the Flatline, the Turbo Havoc and the Turbo Devotion, the G7 Scout, the Hemlock and the Triple Take. As we've already gone over the Wingman, I'm going to start off with the R99 and why it's in the A tier and not the S tier. We all know by now how strong the R99 is, and it's definitely one of those guns that when you see it on the floor, you're never going to turn it down unless you're already fully kitted. What does bring it down just a touch compared to the guns in S tier for me is the fact that it's not as easy to one-clip someone as it is with the alternative gun that you could be running, which is in S tier. Skilled players are going to be able to absolutely use and abuse the R99, and it's a ton of fun, but it does have its drawbacks as well, like the fact you can't one-clip a purple Gibby through his arm shield, and it does require a lot of accuracy to be able to use effectively and get the most out of it. The Flatline is another one of those guns that is super strong but hard to control, and a lot of people in the comments seem to think it's not that hard to control, but trust me, for an assault rifle you should be able to shoot to medium to long range with ease with a assault rifle, or at least relative ease. The Flatline doesn't really give you that. It kicks horizontally rather than vertically, which is a lot different to be able to control, and I'd say it's definitely a little bit of a challenge to control this thing, and definitely not really that viable for long to medium ranges, but up close, it's really strong, and I've heard a lot of people say the Flatline is one of the strongest SMGs in the game if you use it like that, and I tend to agree. Obviously with the turbocharger, the Havoc and Devotion become completely different beasts, as that charge up time is pretty much eradicated. Obviously they're not great from range, but up close where it matters, these things will decimate your opponents. Very few guns in the game are able to compete with these guns in close quarters. The Triple Take and the G7 are your superior ranged weapons in my opinion. The G7 just offers slightly more up close and at a shorter range than the 30-30 Repeater for me, which is why it's up in A tier rather than B tier, but yes, the G7 is still reigning supreme alongside the Triple Take. They've brought down the Triple Take's fire rate back to where it used to be, and it is still extremely strong with its built-in precision choke. Definitely my sniper of choice if I have the choice between any of them. And in the A tier lastly, we have the Hemlock. It's not quite as good as it once was, and that's fine by me because it was ridiculously strong a couple of seasons ago, but it is still extremely strong in the right hands. Those hands aren't mine though, because I suck with this thing, but I know a good gun when I see one, and I know the damage potential this thing has. In my opinion, it is still very, very strong and a good option to run if you've got a good close range secondary on hand. And last but not least, up in the holy S tier, we have the 4 best guns in Apex Legends. The Mastiff, the R301, the Spitfire, and the Volt SMG. Before any of you go running down to the comments saying I forgot the care package weapons, I haven't. They're obviously all S tier guns, but I don't need to tell you that, because that's why they're in the care package, because they're all extremely good guns. Now, let's get the elephant out of the room, the Spitfire. What a ridiculous buff this gun has seen in Season 8. I was shocked to see that they buffed the damage of this thing after we had that care package game mode in Season 7 where fully kitted blue Spitfires were pretty much in everyone's hands and everyone was decimating the entire lobby with them. This thing has pretty much no recoil, or very little, but it's so easy to control, especially when you get a barrel stabilizer, and now they've buffed the damage on it, it absolutely smacks people. Needless to say, because it's an LMG, it also just doesn't stop firing, especially if you get a gold or purple mag on it. Just don't even bother, just don't even take your finger off the trigger, you might as well just keep shooting until you've thirsted through their knockdown shield. It won't stop shooting. Everyone knows by now that the Mastiff is ridiculously crutch on this game, especially on PC. You can one-tap people for 100, and two-tap them, obviously, for 200, meaning most people can go down in 2 shots with this gun. If you have low profile, it's over for you, basically. The R301 is, and probably always will be, my favourite gun in this game. It's so incredibly balanced. It's S tier because once you've learnt the recoil control, it is so strong and just consistently reliable. It does exactly what you need it to do, and it can do the work up close and personal as well. Please, if you're watching this respawn, never ever make any changes to the R301. It doesn't need it. It's perfect as it is. Just shh, it's okay. It's okay. And last, but certainly not least, the Volt SMG. It received a little bit of a nerf this season, but you wouldn't know it. It's still incredibly strong, and for me, it's the best SMG in the game by a country mile because of how easy it is to use. The recoil on it is practically non-existent, and it deals super high amounts of damage even after the nerf. And with good accuracy, it can definitely be used at mid-range as well, which is an added bonus for any SMG you're running. The same can't be said for the R99, for example, which you need to be a ton more accurate with to use it mid-range. It's not impossible, but the Volt is certainly easier to use at mid-range, which knocks it up into the S tier in my opinion. But guys, that is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, where you would put certain weapons on the list. I love to hear your guys' suggestions in the comments below. Obviously, you saw that last season's tier list did have an effect on this season's one, where I moved to where the Sentinel was. So your guys' opinions do matter to me, and I do take them into consideration. Anyway, make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, and goodbye.